All right, everyone. Good evening on this Monday, January the 12th, I believe it is, 2026. Great to be with you. Here is the IPSI Forum on Israel, Africa, and Black America. I'm Pastor Musani Washington, the founder and CEO of the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. Glad to be with you on today. Just saying up a couple of things, old school, clicking on stuff while everything is supposedly loaded up and everything. I hope we're all ready here and good to go. Going on all social media. You can go to ibsi.org and you can find this link, this live stream on all our social media, whether it's YouTube, whether it's X, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Not on Clubhouse anymore for the moment. At some point, we'll add Substack to that. But those other 5 channels we are on. What I'm trying to do right now, ladies and gentlemen, as I generally do as I'm doing this particular part, is make sure that everything is streaming and I can kind of hit it here. I got my little other computer to the side over here. So again, welcome. Again, great to have you. This is the second week of this new calendar year, and I have the privilege of being with you now back to back on Mondays. I don't generally get to do it as much as I used to before. But I was able to do it this time, so I'm glad to be with you. Glad for you to be with us. Could you share if you're on YouTube? Just hit a like and hit a subscribe, all that good stuff. You can share this wherever you are, especially LinkedIn. It's funny, we started doing LinkedIn. It stopped. IPSI stopped, and it started doing it again. And then now that we do, there's been a lot of traction on there. Different ventures, different things kind of happening there. So. But yes, we're glad to be with you. So now, the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel, ibsi.org. We are a organization that strengthens the ties and the connection between Israel and Africa, the Black and Jewish community throughout the diaspora, both communities and everything. And so you can find out more about us by going to our website. You can also find out about us if you go to our website, ibsi.org. And then there's other links that are there too. We try to make it as user-friendly as we can, although we are revamping it for several different reasons. We'll get into a little bit later on in the spring. But for now, go on there and check it out. We have a weekly Substack called Africa Israel Weekly. So you can click on that from our website, ibsi.org, or you can go straight to it at ibsi.substack.com and find it either way. And so, yep, down there. And also, you can find, when you're on our website, once again, you'll see all at the bottom of the home page, you will see all of the social media links, whether it's Instagram, whether it's YouTube, LinkedIn, X, and one other one I'm probably forgetting there. So yes, that's the different ways that you can find it here. So we're here each Monday, not every Monday, because sometimes the staff is traveling, but we're here each Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. I had said before, and we are talking about it as a staff, about changing the time somewhat. We have friends that'll follow us and that'll join with us from different parts of the world, sometimes in Africa, sometimes in Israel, of course, Central Time or West. There's another thing that is called in the African time zone. It's like 2, 3 in the morning out there. And so some who want to join live, sometimes they will do that. But we've talked about changing the time. It's a good time for ourselves in the West. Evening here throughout the continental U.S. from 8 p.m. to 5 p.m. on the West Coast. Shout out to all our friends, West Coast, and all the other time zones. Good to see you, friends and family. Great to be with you. So again, share this with your friends and family. We're going to get into several different things here on today. Actually, somewhat picking up where we left off last week, and I'll say some more about that too in terms of the events that are coming up and some other things as well. So let me first do this, Ms. Producer Valley Beth Shalom. We will be, IPSI will be, and the music as well. Jodavi, the recording artist, my son, who's executive director, but also writer, producer. We're doing a music celebration called Africa to Israel. Our Bridge to Zion. I was looking at the screen right there. Sunday, February the 1st, the first day of Black History Month. We will be at Valley Beth Shalom out there in the LA area. Shout out to our friend and colleague, Rabbi Nolan Leibowitz. So you can see that graphic right there. You can scan the QR code, and you can also, Ms. Producer, I forgot to ask our web person to put it on our website, but I think it's on Valley Beth Shalom. So you go vbs.org /concert, I believe it is, or you can scan that QR code and get your tickets for there. We'll be there. We're looking forward to it. Shout out to Dr. Pat Bailey out there and the pastors out there. We took our Black and African pastors to Israel back in November. We're looking forward to seeing a few of them there, as well as we come together, the Christian and Jewish communities out there in the LA area for that music celebration. So we're looking forward to that. That's actually about 10 days before we head out from the United States to Ethiopia. We will be going now, you'll see, for a third or fourth time to Ethiopia, but this is our first annual Young Leaders Conference in Addis Ababa. This will be a gathering of Black American and African men and women around between the ages of 20 and 40. And we're talking about the future of Zionism, Christian Zionism, African Zionism, Pan-Africanism. We're talking about education. We're talking about entrepreneurialism. It's going to be quite an amazing time, extraordinary time. I have a little video update I think I shared before. If you haven't seen it, Ms. Producer, if you could go ahead and share that video update so they can see about that conference. Successful 3,000-year friendship celebrating the Africa-Israel relationship in Addis Ababa, and the launch of our first African and Black American Holy Land Tour, IBSI announced our first annual Young Leaders Conference of African and Black American men and women and asked you to help us make it happen. You responded, and we cannot thank you enough, but we still need your help. February 12th through the 14th, some 100 young delegates will gather in Ethiopia's capital from across Africa and the U.S. to discuss African Christian Zionism, Pan-Africanism and the diaspora, education, business, technology, music, and much more. Our speakers will be African, Israeli, and American thought leaders, and we'll be listening to what our young delegates have to say. Africa is the youngest and fastest growing continent, and the future of the region is Israel Africa. Young Black Americans will greatly impact that future, and your financial support will help us shape that future. To help us make the Young Leaders Conference in Addis Ababa a success, go to ibsi.org/donate and select Young Leaders Conference 2026. Or to support any area of IBSI's work, go to ibsi.org and select General. To learn more, visit ibsi.org and join our emailing list, or email us directly at info@ibsi-now.org. Ms. Producer, last week we shared that more than once, maybe at the end. I might share that video again, but I want everybody to know again, that is going to be February the 12th through the 14th, our Young Leaders Conference. We're doing it in conjunction with our partners out there in Ethiopia called Let Africa Go Movement. Shout out to Dr. Habera Habte, who is not only one of the evangelical leaders there in Ethiopia and vast regions of Africa, but also the owner and the leader of El Shaddai Television Ministries based there in Addis Ababa. And then our other partners as well, we have other African partners, Israeli partners. So again, it's going to be an amazing time. This is the first thing of its kind where we're bringing together both Black American and African young people to talk about these things, everything from the biblical mandate and standing with Israel to, again, African economy, education, Pan-Africanism, both in the spiritual and in the practical sense about what's happening on the continent. We're going to be hearing from young people from Ghana, hopefully from Nigeria, from South Africa, from different states there, and then some, and obviously from the United States as well, as we come together and talk about that and make plans, because it's the first annual one. We're planning on being there, whether in Ethiopia or other parts of the continent each year, but we're convening it for the first time here. There's amazing things that are planned. And so again, we need your help. It is happening. Again, I want to say thank you. This was just an idea a few months ago, but it is coming together, it's taking shape. And it's because of donors like you. Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel is a nonprofit organization. All of your gifts are tax deductible, and they help us do the work here in the United States, in Africa, in Israel, and other parts of the world here pretty soon too, which we'll get into in another time. But our primary focus is Israel and Africa and the United States. And so you are enabling us to do that. So we appreciate that. We still need your help to continue with that. And that video that you just saw, it is on all of our social media. So share that with your friends and family as well, for those who might want to help with that. And those who have been helping us put that together, all of our sponsors, all of our donors, all of our supporters, thank you so much for all of that. We will also be, the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel will be partaking in the International Conference on Combating Anti-Semitism in Jerusalem later on this month. And then, Ms. Producer, if you have that one, we did a little video promo with Visegrad. I don't know how to say that exactly. Please forgive me, you all. I think they're based in either the UK or somewhere in Europe. They asked us to do a video and they put it all together. We sent them the stuff. Let's go ahead and share that one with them so they can see it as well. On January 26th and 27th, IBSI will join the International Conference on Combating Anti-Semitism in Jerusalem, held on the 81st anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. I had the sacred honor of visiting Auschwitz-Birkenau in November 2024. Sadly, the ideology behind the horrors we saw there are rising, especially in the West. The more global Jew hatred rises, the more Christians and religious minorities are oppressed, especially in Africa. We at IBSI see this connection and know that the only way to defeat this extremist violence and hatred is together. So we're joining other leaders from around the world to plan and strategize against this evil in the eternal, undivided capital of Israel. Looking forward. We got the invitation about the conference from Minister of Diaspora Affairs in Israel, Amichai Chikli. I met him a couple of years ago at a couple of events that we did at the Jerusalem Center for, it's no longer the Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs. Please, Dan and Tirza, forgive me because my brain keeps forgetting the actual changed title of it, formerly Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs. And so we continue to work with our friends there as well. So we're looking forward to being there and having lots of different meetings and making some announcements while we're there as well. So again, your tax deductible gifts help us do the work. That, for example, the Ethiopia trip that we're doing in February is the third of 3 waves of what has been a doubling down on the Israel, Africa, and Black America stance that IPSI has. Was in Ethiopia in September, then took Black and African pastors to Israel in November. And then, of course, we'll be doing this Young Leaders Summit, Young Leaders Conference in this February. And then, of course, even before that, there for the Anti-Semitism Conference. Now, I want to, there's several things that I have on the docket, not all of which will probably get done. We generally set it at about an hour. Last week, we went over. We try to also put some clips out there for you so you can see. This forum is for anyone who wants to know about what the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel does. It's for whether it's our IPSI ambassadors and people who are already members, who are already pastors, who are party leaders that we work with across the country. So it's a family thing, it's an in-house thing, and it's a broad thing. We cast a wide net on our Monday events. What we haven't started yet in the new year is what's called our IPSI Pastors Presents, and that's for pastors and leaders of the community in which we delve into specific topics, and that's private. We don't stream that. We do it as a Zoom. So we do it. We generally do it every third Tuesday of the month. We're going to try to do it every week, even if we're going to be somewhere in parts of the world. We're working all of that out. We haven't started it yet. We probably won't be able to start it till later on in the spring, probably in March, possibly in February. So the pastors who have been asking about that, we're looking forward to starting that soon. If you want to be a part of that, you are a pastor or a Christian leader or a leader in the community, and you want to be a part of that Pastors Presents, that community leaders presents, where we have those sometimes biblical, sometimes geopolitical conversations, kind of a roundtable discussion. I'll share some teaching and we'll have some speakers. Then you need to join our emailing list for that. You go to ibsi.org and you can go ahead and click on the actual join our newsletter type of thing. And if you do that and send us a note, or even better, email us at info@ibsi-now.org and just put like leaders or pastors event or IPSI pastors or something in there. I'll just say, hey, I want to join that emailing list that Dumisani Washington was talking about, where the pastors come together once a month on a Zoom. If you want to do that, email us at info@ibsi-now.org. and we will get that information to you. All right, to the other business at hand. We try to do those things in the beginning, not that are not important, but we want to make sure we get some announcements, some current events, things that are coming up. Sometimes there's too many things to put all in there, so that's what our newsletter is for. Go to ibsi.org. We send out something about once a week. ibsi.org. Join our emailing list, our general list, so that you can get the information from there as well. All right, today we released in kind of a synced up manner one of our Africa Israel Weekly, one of our latest articles entitled, and again, my brain is scrambled, Slave Owners Fighting the Occupation. So we're going to get into this. And that's why I said this one is going to have to unpack it a little bit. There's a video that we released and an accompanying article. Now, the article, as a matter of fact, Ms. Producer, if you don't mind, put the article up there for me, please. There's an article on our Africa Israel Weekly entitled Slave Owners Fighting the Occupation, subtitle, Another free Palestine activist discovers the Arab enslavement of Africans. It's amazing that even on the posting of this video, so this is the article, ibsi-substack.com, or on our Africa Israel Weekly. You can go to that Africa Israel Weekly two different ways, either straight from that website that you see there on your screen, or go to ibsi.org and find that logo, Africa Israel Weekly. Boom. Our articles are there, and the one that was published this morning has this title with that thumbnail, Slave Owners Fighting the Occupation. The young lady in that screen grab there, her name is Emma Mubarak, I believe her last name is. I don't know her personally. We'll get into that a little bit. The video features her because of what she did a few months ago, in which she did a live, I don't know if it was a live or she recorded a video from the airport where she was, I believe it was in Amman, Jordan. We're gonna get that in a second as well. So you can go and see the article. The reason I'm pointing out the article first is because the article has more detail in there. We did a short video, about 3 minutes plus, and then we didn't cover every little thing, but we tried to cover the main focus, which was, here's a very anti-Israel, free Palestine, kind of, pro-Palestine advocate, activist, who is laying into her own community for its hypocrisy and its silence around the Arab enslavement of Black Africans. She experienced it. She saw just a glimpse of it. And what she saw, she did a little bit of a deeper dive, and it horrified her. And again, she did a video of it. She didn't become a Zionist. I was just answering somebody on the thing on our the stream. So the video that I'm getting ready to show you, it's about 3 minutes. I'm gonna show you this video if you haven't seen it already. It's on all of our social media. We're gonna talk some more about it, kind of get some clarity. I'm gonna say this right off the bat. The video that's featuring Iman, is not because she's an Israel advocate. That has nothing to do with her Israel. She's anti-Israel, right? It's that she, as a person who fighting the quote-unquote occupation, there's no occupation, she sees Israel as evil, and now she's struggling with the side that she thought was the righteous side, are not only not the righteous side, that side is actually engaged in the enslavement of people and don't care, right? This is what we're actually saying. She's telling the truth about the Arab enslavement of Africans, even though she doesn't have the truth about Israel. And I say something more about it. So I want to show the video first, Ms. Producer. Let's go ahead and show the video and we'll talk some more about it.
Talk as often as we should about the slavery.
We're going to that one as well. Not the one else, but the one, where is the one that I want? Is that, did I forget to load it up? I did forget to load it. Okay, let's hold on 1 second. I think, wait, was it on the other thing? All right, that's what happens when you go live. So what I'm going to do while I'm setting this up, I'm going to see if I can do this at the same time, Miss Producer, and I'm going to pull it from here. I think that I should say, oh, that's right. I thought that I had already loaded it up. But I see that I didn't.
Afternoon and Israel.
Meet Iman, a free Palestine. I really want you to see the intro. Okay, so Miss Producer, go ahead and back it up and let's play it for the nice people. And I love it on when we do the replays, all this stuff gets edited out, but when it's live, it's live. Okay, let's go.
Yo, good afternoon and Israel.
Meet Iman, a free Palestine, very anti-Israel activist who seems to be of both Black American and Arab descent. Did I say she was anti-Israel?
Yo, good afternoon and Israel.
Iman is one of the latest anti-Israel activists to very accidentally discover a truth that is nearly 1,400 years old. Arabs own and abuse Black African slaves and think absolutely nothing of it. On October the 1st last year, Iman posted this.
I land in Amman and I have to go to gate 126. So I walk over to 126 and I see a line for priority, I see a line for economy, and then I see a group of Black women, African women, huddled up and lined up by themselves. Everybody's like really attached to each other, they cling to each other, and I'm like watching this shit and I'm like, something's off, what the f going on? I'm standing there because I'm approaching the gate. I haven't like fully walked all the way up, and a woman comes up to me and she's like, oh my god, you're Iman. I'm like, yeah, what's up, sis? She's like, I love your videos, blah blah blah. I'm like, what's going on over here? She's like, oh, they're slaves. I was like, excuse me? She's like, they're gonna be slaves. I'm like, what do you mean? You mean?
On a connecting flight to Lebanon through Jordan, Iman sees Ethiopian women being shipped like cargo to their Arab masters. When Iman asked what she was seeing, her adoring fan said,
Oh, they're slaves.
Over the next 2 videos, Iman gives real-time, raw, unfiltered reaction to a world she never knew existed. Again, for Iman, the worst part seemed to be that no one thought anything of it.
Everyone around me knows what's going on and they're complying. And I'm like, I really just walked into Jim Crow Arab edition. And every time I try to do anything, oh my God, they put the magnifying glass on me, like, don't you dare.
Check out what she says to her fellow Free Palestine activists.
And we're just watching this in 4K and we're all meeting up at the same time for Gaza. Like, what sense does that fucking make? How are we fighting one occupation when we're in occupation for these African women? Like, make it make any fucking sense.
Once workers from mostly African and Southeast Asian countries apply for jobs in Arab countries, very often their passports are taken so they can't escape the slavery they unknowingly stepped into.
Then you do your homework. 1 in 4 Ethiopian women are found dead in the hands of Lebanon due to A, suicide, or B, trying to escape.
In 1969, while living in Algeria, Black Panther and anti-Israel activist Eldridge Cleaver discovered the Arab enslavement of Black Africans. It was the first step in Cleaver's journey that ultimately led him to become a very proud Zionist. Throughout Iman's videos, you can see the pain, confusion, and anger in her face. Hear it in her voice. Watch her describe her conversation with an African woman who is a former slave.
She's from Sierra Leone, and I asked her about this. She's like, we came over because they said they'd give us work. They would pay us $400 or $500 a month. And then when I came, my madame took my passport. She won't give it back. I was like, what'd you do? She's like, I ran away. I don't want to work for her. I'm my own woman.
If there's any moment in that video that I would point to as the most important moment, it's the last 5, 6, 7 seconds. And that is of Iman, who is struggling with what to say next. This is why when we edited the video, we left it on there. That's all real time. Now, having said that, the point of the video is not Iman. I don't know the young lady. I've never met the young lady, and some people, have you reached out to them? No, we just found her. We found the IG. The only way we even found the video was that somebody else sent us a clip on our X page, and then we did a little dive and we saw where it actually came from. It came from an IG page and an Instagram page. We found her page. We found the successive 3 different videos that she made, all I say in real time, because she made them at the airport right as these things were happening, right after they happen. So we just get clips from each of the videos is about 3+ minutes long. So she goes into different areas and everything. And so the reason why I say the focus isn't her, I want to be very clear. It's like I'm going to teach a classroom type of thing here. We are not attacking her. We're not parading her. One comment was on there. Why is she being held as an advocate? She's not being held as an Israel advocate. She's a person who's very anti-Israel, but who's telling the truth about the reality, the hypocrisy of the anti-Israel Free Palestine movement. They call Israel an apartheid state and it calls it an occupation, which it is not. And at the same time, whether it's Black Arabs in Gaza who live in Al Abid, which is slave town, which is with the slaves in Lebanon or in Jordan or in Qatar and Saudi Arabia and UAE, even what we call the more calm or the more moderate Arab states, is African slaves all over the Arab Islamic world, which we're going to get a little deeper dive here. And it has been the case since the 7th century. None of this is new. After the death of Muhammad particularly, and over the next century, Islam spreads from Arabia all the way to the northern part of Africa, and then eventually going up the Mediterranean, going up to Spain. This happens in about a century, and it doesn't happen with people ringing the doorbell and saying, would you like to receive the Quran? Would you like to talk about Muhammad? No, they're slashing, killing, burning, raping, pillaging, plundering, right? And people get upset. It's the truth. So what's happening here is that the slavery part of that version of Islam, which is literal, still affects not just, as I said in the video, The people who are being deceived in this way, this has been going on a long time. Most of them are African, but many of them are from Southeast Asia and other countries in which they are struggling financially. And what happens is what you just see there. They put an ad in the paper. Hey, you could be a maid, you could be a nanny, yada, yada, yada. Come to here, come to Qatar, come to Lebanon, come to Jordan, come to where, and then they fill out the thing and they go. And then, as you just saw, you can research it yourself. So this young lady, not pro-Israel, right? And again, we don't know. I don't know if she's Arab and Black American. We're only inferring because we don't know her personally, and we're not making some sort of comment on her ethnic identity. We're just saying based on what she's saying, and she seems to be somewhat fluent in Arabic. It seems like that's her first language. She's talking. As you look at her the videos, some words and phrases she says in Arabic. Most of it is in English, and she has a lot of followers on there who are making the comments and everything. Right? She still hates Israel. And our focus was not whether or not she loved Israel. Our focus is here is this anti-Israel person who even asked the question. She said, we are organizing for Gaza while we are basically have our foot on the necks of these African women. Make it make sense. It's thank you. She's saying what an Israel advocate would be saying, except for she thinks that Israel's an apartheid state. She's wrong. And she's just now finding out about something. Again, that's 1400 years. It's very, very old. There was another thing there too. It's a mess up my own chain of thought. So I want to set the record straight about that. That's what the video is about. Again, it's not a tag. Oh, that's what somebody else asked too. Why don't you tag her? One of the reasons why our organization decided not to tag her on any of the pages, including especially the IG, is because we were not trying to come at her. We're not trying to make it about her, nor do we want people on our page, people that we don't know. There's thousands of people, right? You don't know everybody. Most of the people are there cool. Every once in a while, you have the trolls. People are going to say nasty things to her, whatever. That's not going to help anything, right? Let her do this. I made the comment in the video that it was similar to, I wasn't calling her Eldridge Cleaver. I was not calling her Black Panther. I was saying that this is an age-old thing, particularly where Black Americans, Black Westerners are concerned. If they get caught up in the Free Palestine thing, many of the things that they're being lied to is about how Black folk are treated in the Arab Muslim world. The same jihadists that are trying to slaughter Israel and the Jewish people are enslaving and slaughtering African Christians, and they're enslaving and slaughtering the Yazidis or boy, goodness gracious, the Jews and the Christians and the I can't remember. I'm sorry, my brain is working too fast right now. In Syria, there's a genocide going on there, and it's the same thing. These are jihadists slaughtering people who are non-Muslims or not the right type of Muslims, right? These people, if they want to just live in peace. This has been going on for millennia. And no one knows that better than the Africans who, since the trans-Saharan slave trade of the 7th century, continues to this day. As a matter of fact, Miss Producer, go ahead and give me PLO Lumumba. He is a Kenyan historian and speaker. So maybe you have seen him before. I've known about him for years. He's also not pro-Israel, but he also tells the truth about the history of the slave trade. Go ahead, Mr. Producer. Let's go ahead and share that one too.
Talk as often as we should about the slavery that took place in the eastern coast of Africa from the year 650 AD. The enslavement of African peoples by the Arab Emirates, if you may, the Omani Empire and all those empires. This started in 650 AD, as I've already said. And estimates now suggest that as many as 18 million Africans were taken from the eastern coast of Africa, from what is today Kenya, Tanzania, up to the hinterland in places such as Malawi, and were taken to the Arab world. But the Arabs also did something else that the transatlantic slave perhaps did not do as effectively as they did, is that some of them came into the hinterland and married. So you can see the process of Arabization. This is a similarity rather than a difference. The Arabization of the eastern coast of Africa and the Islamization, because they came, and in the process of enslaving, they also Islamize and Arabize. And you see people having names which are fundamentally Arab and Islamized. Even the Arab names were Islamized. One of the most dangerous things that you see in the slavery in the Arab world was castration of men. This was unprecedented, because in the transatlantic, they wanted the people to breed so that they would have more slaves. But in the Arab world, they simply castrated them. They were eunuchs who worked in the harems of the sultans of the day. That was as cruel as cruelty can be, because they intended to decimate.
So I gotta unpack this a little bit. And shout out to Pastor Machula. I just saw on my comments, and then my comments thing went open. Pastor Machula Hall out there in this Atlanta area, going to be meeting with all of our pastors. We took to Israel here pretty soon and set up our calendars for 2026. Shout out to you, man. Appreciate you and Pastor Kendrick. So I want. There's so much that he said, and I'm connecting it to the video that IPSI just put out about slave owners fighting the occupation. The title is supposed to be an irony, right? These are people who are enslaving other people and lying about Israel being an apartheid state in an occupied territory. See, this is the cognitive dissonance. But to go further, Professor Lumumba just got through saying here that during the trans-Saharan slave trade, one of the many things that distinguished the trans-Saharan slave trade, which was Arab-led of Africans, and Africans as well. Again, when there was the enslavement of Africans, there were African kings and leaders, chiefs, who worked with their enemies to enslave their people. No, this is all factual history. And the same thing was true during the transatlantic slave trade. This transatlantic slave trade was made truly possible by the effectiveness of the trans-Saharan slave trade and the Arab and Africans who were enslaving other Africans. All this is true. Ladies and gentlemen, slavery has never been a race or color thing. People have enslaved other people since the beginning of man's history on the planet, right? So this is the point that we're making about the Arab enslavement of Africans isn't that somehow everybody was getting along and then one day the Arabs rose up and started enslaving Africans. No, it's not what we're saying. That's ahistorical. But what we are saying is that when it comes to any type of broader society, there's some 2 million Africans enslaved throughout the Arab Islamic world, whereas the West abolished slavery back in the 19th century. Say what you want about racism and white supremacy, but the West, starting in the UK, wrestled with itself about the morality of slavery, even though slavery had been in place since the dawn of time, right? But they decided, no, this is no longer illegal. Yes, now human trafficking still happens. It is illegal in these places where there's a rule of law. And when the people, theoretically are found out, they're supposed to be arrested. I say theoretically, unfortunately, you have corrupt law enforcement, all that kind of thing. But still, there are laws there that ban the slavery that you would have seen earlier in the history in the West. But in the East, in the Arab Islamic world, even though there are the people Saudi Arabia banned slavery back in 1960, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, whatever. What you just got through seeing here from the young lady Iman was that slavery still happens. These Black African women from Ethiopia were being transported from Amman or through Amman, Jordan, to Lebanon, where they were going to be trapped. And she even got personal testimony from a woman from Sierra Leone who this happened to. She took a job at an Arab household. They took her passport and then she ran away, risked her life, but apparently lived to tell about it, right? So we said, this is still happening. This is still a problem. So what he said is that in the trans-Saharan slave trade, he talked about castration. See, the transatlantic slave trade, both evil in the sense that treated people as property, but was still a regularly occurring thing, right? So the transatlantic slave trade was about commerce. It became more and more about race as you started having the black codes and those types of things where you had different ethnicities who were enslaved in the Americas, particularly in the United States, but then there were specific laws around black people being slaves. That's another conversation for another day. But here, ladies and gentlemen, castration means that there was no desire, not only no desire for the slave to reproduce, castration, there was no the cutting off of the man's sexual organs, so that he could not reproduce, which is antithetical, because if you're investing money in a slave, you would want him to, among other things, breed, which is what happened in the West. Now, again, I'm not touting the virtues of Western slavery, of the transatlantic slaves. That's not what I'm doing. What we're doing is drawing a contrast. And PLO Lumumba, this is what he was saying. He was saying that there was the desire not just to enslave the African by the Arab Islamists, but to decimate them. This is what's going on in Sudan right now. This is what's going on in Mauritania right now. This was the slave trade of Africans still exists today. Libya, they still have open slave markets. Yes, places where you go to shopping malls or different parking lots, and they have black folks who've come, migrant workers, people that they've captured, and they're selling them for $300-400. The price of an expensive pair of shoes or a moderate pair of shoes. Yes. And they are disposable. And as you can see, they'll get some more or they're putting ads in the paper. This is actually happening throughout the Arab Muslim world. Now, the other thing that's happened when you talk about these things, often the same pejoratives and all the sling. Oh, you're being Islamophobic. Oh, you're being racist. It's amazing because you know what? That's how crazy the West is. Because of everything that I just got through telling you, the castration of taking out ads and taking their passports and the other, if I had told you that white Western Europeans and white Americans were doing that to Africans right now, there would be a worldwide abolitionist movement. Yes, it would. United Nations would start talking. The African Union would start talking, right? But it's not. It's being driven by mostly Arab Muslims in that part of the world, I'm saying, right? Human trafficking is a global thing. I'm talking about what Iman, this anti-Israel activist, just saw with her own eyes. Africans being trafficked, being sold as slaves. She saw slaves going to get on a plane and treated like less than animals. And her free Palestine friend who loves her videos telling you, oh, I love you. Well, she said, what's going on? Yeah, well, they're slaves. She never thought nothing about it. And Iman, if you watch her video, she talked about how she cried for 3-4 hours because what was messing her up is as she considers herself a black woman, what she was saying in the video, she's watching these other African women basically being treated less than animals, being cargo, and nobody caring. Nobody, when I mean nobody, she's surrounded by other Arabs who could not care less. It freaked her out, which is why she made the video. And this is why we shared the video. So now, along with that, because I want to be very clear, I want to give you some information here. Not only, yes, Islamophobia is a made-up word. Are there people who are racist, who hate Arabs, who hate Muslims, who hate, just like I hate Jews, Christians? Yes, absolutely, 100%. Is that what Ipsy's doing? Absolutely not. The problem becomes this. If you deal with a subject that is sensitive, that is difficult, it makes people uncomfortable. That's the first thing. And no one wants to be made to feel uncomfortable, which is why most of the time people don't deal with things that make them uncomfortable. Hey, let me say this as a pastor, can I help you? Even in your personal life, the way personal growth is attained, among other ways, process, is me taking stock in my life, taking inventory, as the word of God would say, considering or examining myself, asking myself hard questions. Why did you do that? Why do you do that? What is up with that? And for those of us in our turn to our walk with God, praying. David said, search me, God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. And see if there be any wicked way in me and lead me to the way of everlasting. That's a person who's having to objectively look as much as they can at themselves. And what did God say to the prophet Jeremiah? The heart is deceitfully wicked above all things. Who can know it? In other words, man in his fallen state has the propensity to do great evil. Can he do great good? Absolutely. That's why people can do amazing things. But when man descends into doing not even animalistic, just evil things, is not all of a sudden that he's being a person who is given to the basis part of his nature to do bad things, right? So in personal growth has me challenge, okay, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And sometimes the answers to those questions are offensive to me. Sometimes personal growth looks like you offending yourself by answering the question in a way that makes you not look good, right? Trying to get yourself in a good light. How about I really take a look at this? Let me actually look at this part of my life. What do I need to do? So the reason I'm saying that is that it's also true in the corporate sense, that when something is brought up that is uncomfortable, either for the individual or for a group, even it's not me for me. In other words, we're having a conversation, somebody brings up a topic, it might not be uncomfortable for me, but I have a friend who's in the room that's uncomfortable for them. Now, I'm not talking about in an attacking way, but just something that's going to feel like, a little uncomfortable. Well, then again, I might feel uncomfortable on behalf of my friend. Now, it's different if somebody's attacking them. I'm just saying if something gets brought up. I'm going to show you what I mean by this in a minute. One of the things that I've often struck with me, and I'm going to be very clear as I'm saying this. The Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel has always spoken out against the jihadism that's happening in different parts of the world, particularly Africa, not because we only care about Africa, but because that is our main focus and our main emphasis. It's not like other nations don't exist. It's not like jihadists aren't slaughtering people in Afghanistan and in Yemen. Well, Yemen is still the Middle East and connected to Africa, but I'm just saying different parts of the world. It's not like these things, bad things aren't happening in different places. It's just that we have a mandate, and that's why we're called the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. Black American, African, that's our focus, but not in some sort of, elitist sort of way. That's just our mandate. So now, having said that, the number one place in terms of jihadism and terrorism and everything is, according to the Global Terrorism Index, Africa, since 2020. So not only is our focus Africa, but Africa in the Sahel, which is the western part of Benin and Togo, that part of the west coast of Africa, they are struggling the most with Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Boko Haram. They are slaughtering thousands of Christians and other non-Muslims. And again, other Muslims who are not wanting to follow this way of this whole jihad thing, right? The president of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore, is a Muslim who is trying to save his country that is being devoured by ISIS and Al-Qaeda and other terrorist organizations. He doesn't want a jihadist state. He's just a Muslim, and he has respect for Christians and Muslims. And again, I don't know the man personally. I'm not trying to advocate for him. I'm just saying that's what his reality is. And so you have other African Muslims who are being slaughtered by other jihadist Muslims who want to see a caliphate, whether they're killing Muslims, Christians, Jews, right? Whatever they have to do, this is what's actually happening right now. That's Islamophobic. Okay, and if you think that's Islamophobic, that's because you've been duped. If you think it's Islamophobic to say that there are Muslims who are very literally interpreting their texts and their hadiths in terms of slaughtering other people who don't believe like them, who don't accept the way of Allah, then you've been deceived. Any more than be Christians out there chopping off people's heads if they did not receive Jesus as their Lord and Savior. If there was Jews out there who then were slaughtering people who did not believe like them and say the Shema. That's just what this is. And if that was happening within another group, we would call it out. But what's happened over a period of decades in the West, that somehow telling the truth about what's going on, it gets labeled Islamophobic. We just don't play that game. We don't care. We don't care. Don't care that's how they feel. We care about what our intentions are and whether or not we're doing that in an effective way. That having been said, I often think about Frederick Douglass's book, My Bondage, My Freedom. I read that 30-something years ago, and there's certain portions of it, you read a long book, and then lots of it you might not remember, at least not in your frontal lobe. But there's a section in it. I didn't know if I was going to be able to find it, and I was able to find it. Thank God. And I want to read you an excerpt from chapter 24. Chapter 24, just a few sentences, about 3 paragraphs, short paragraphs. Frederick Douglass, this is towards the end of his autobiography called My Bondage, My Freedom. And you can put it up there again so they can see. My Bondage, My Freedom. You go ahead and pick it up, get on Amazon. You can get on digital, whatever I want you to get. And then there's different covers, but these are books that are published obviously back in the 19th century. So you can check those out. Just do Frederick Douglass of the many books that he wrote, as well as articles and everything like that. It's very, very powerful, very powerful. It was a real a mainstay in a turning point in my life when different things were actually happening when it comes to worldview and Africa, and later on Africa, Israel, all those things. So I want to share with you what happened with him. That's why I know we won't be able to get to everything, because I got to do this as a teaching thing. Gather around. Frederick Douglass, born into slavery as a baby, separated from his mother, and lived in different plantations. Some of his owners kinder than others, some just downright evil and mean. He saw the beatings, he saw the hangings, he saw the gamut. So he became, by the prophetic word of God, somebody prophesied over him while he was still a slave that he was going to be free and was going to travel the world and basically not only gain his freedom, but help other people gain their freedom. It blew his mind. That's exactly what God did. So part of that story is that his life is in danger as a free man now. And the United States is involved in a very heinous practice called the internal slave trade. United States government abolished the transatlantic slave trade, in which they would get slaves from ships And again, ladies and gentlemen, slavery abolished in the Western world, led by the UK, who would actually fight other African tribes who were still trafficking in slaves. This is how the history went. In the West, it was abolished mainly by white Christians. They had black abolitionists who worked with them, absolutely, but they came together to abolish slavery in the West. So at this time, slavery is still there. It's about 1845, I believe it is. And Frederick Douglass, for fear of his life, is going to the UK, where he spends about 2 years. And he goes with his other colleagues who are all white Christians, white abolitionists. And an incident happened on the ship. And I'm going to read that for you now. He's on the ship and he's talking. So go ahead. If you have that on there, Miss Producer, that would be the Frederick Douglass one. I'm going to read the clip for you here. This is, again, My Bond is My Freedom, Frederick Douglass. I found myself treated with every mark of respect. He's talking about on the ship going from Baltimore headed to the UK, from the beginning to the end of the voyage, except in a single instance. And in that, I came near being mobbed for complying with an invitation given me by the passengers and the captain of the Cambria to deliver a lecture on slavery. They wanted him to speak on slavery on the ship. Our New Orleans and Georgia passengers were pleased to regard my lecture as an insult offered to them as Southerners, and swore I should not speak. They went so far as to threaten to throw me overboard, but for the firmness of Captain Judkins, probably would have, under the inspiration of slavery and brandy, they would have attempted to put their threats into execution. They would have thrown me over the ship. I have no space to describe this scene, although its tragic and comic peculiarities are well worth describing. An end was put to the melee by the captains calling the ship's company to put the salt water, it says mobocrats, it said monocrats, these self-ruled people, in irons. In other words, the captain was going to arrest and throw in jail in the stockade or in the what do you call that thing, the ship? Forgive me, all you sea-bearing people. I'm sorry. And at this determined order, the gentlemen of the lash scampered, and for the rest of the voyage conducted themselves very decorously, all these old words, and with great decor. I think, is that the last part, Miss Producer? I think that is. Yes. Okay. So now, why did I read that part to you? What is Frederick Douglass saying? He was on a ship that had segregation. There were certain parts where only black people could stay, and white people, they were separated. However, these types of segregation laws were not like in the UK, like they were in the United States, much worse in the United States than was in the UK. So even though there was segregation on the ship, particularly coming from the United States, he had the freedom to go visit his friends in the other parts of the ship if they invited him. And he would sparingly go. He said this in the book. He said he was cool to be where he was supposed to be. He said his white friends got all offended. Oh, no, Fred, you got to stay with us. And Fred's like going, look, man, I'm black man. I get it. So whatever, I'm going to stay here. I don't cause no problem. Y'all go to your part. So they invited him for food and kick it like that. So he would go there every once in a while, kick with them. So at some point they said, okay, Frederick Douglass is here. He was already known as a writer. He had already started his newspaper. So he was a pretty well-known Black American abolitionist. He wasn't the only Black American. There are many of them, but he was probably the most famous one. So they say to him, Frederick, could you come, Mr. Douglass, and give us a lecture on slavery? Well, the Southern whites that were there, particularly from New Orleans, Louisiana, and Georgia, were not having it. Why? Because Frederick Douglass, a former slave and now abolitionist, telling the truth about slavery, offended the white people who were slaves. They were so offended that they threatened him and were going to take him and throw his black self off of the ship into the Atlantic Ocean. And the only reason, according to Frederick Douglass in his own book, that they didn't do it is because the captain defended him and let them know, I will slap irons on you all. And back then, really not just handcuffs. I'm going to put you in the stockade. You all will sit there in the brig until we get to the UK. And then they kind of scampered like some little puppies. Whenever I bring up the Arab Islamic enslavement of Africans, and there are people in the room or in the social media, whatever like that, whether they're Arab or not, I'm not attacking Arab. Frederick Douglass was not standing up and saying white people need to die, white people are this. He was saying, here is the system of slavery that is still enslaving my people. And the people who got mad are the one, you know what? If they could have thought of a word like Islamophobia, Christophobia, whiteophobia, they probably would have thrown it. Why? Because they wanted him to shut up. Not because he wasn't telling the truth, ladies and gentlemen, but because he was. So when we get the whole thing about, oh, you're being Islamophobic, not only do we not care, you mean to tell me I'm supposed to be more concerned with your claims of Islamophobia while jihadists are slaughtering Christians in Sudan? Let's see. I don't care. Let me think about it a little bit more. No, I don't. I don't care that it makes you uncomfortable, right? And the people who got uncomfortable were the ones who are invested in the system staying in place. If you go back and look at Emma's own videos, again, we didn't link her, but in the article, the Africa Israel Weekly article, there is a link to her IG page so that person who's reading it can see what she said. It's not linked on the IG because we want to make it easier for trolls to go to her, because that's not what we're trying to do. But for the people who are going to take the time to actually read the article, you can click on the link and then you can see her in her own words talking about it, right? And one of the things that she says, one thing she says in the article, we cite in the article, but it's actually this part's in the video. If you go to that, Slave Owners Fighting the Occupation, Africa Israel Weekly, that's our Substack, ibsi.substack.com. You go to read it, you click on that, and that first paragraph, there's a link to her IG page where she's actually talking about this. And one thing she says, she calls out her friends. She said, and for those, now she's specifically speaking to other Arabs. She's saying, for those of you, other Arabs, who are afraid to say something because your family will get mad, because people will say stuff about you, this, that, and the other. Basically, she told me you need to get the hell over it. And you know what? She is 100% absolutely correct. Do you know that white abolitionists lost their lives fighting against slavery at the hands of other white people who wanted to keep slavery? Do you know that that's what happened in the Civil War? No, it wasn't about slavery. It was about slavery. It was about autonomy. All those are the types of things. Yes, states' rights. All those things were there, but make absolutely no mistake about it. When the Confederates seceded, they definitely lifted slavery as part. It's so amazing. People get so mad at PragerU. You know, shout out to Dennis Prager, praying for you that you get better and better, sir. They did a video. There was one of the generals in the U.S. something about 10, maybe more than that years. He talked about, yes, there's a video out there. Prager did it a good 10 plus years ago, said, and the title of the video, something like, yes, the Civil War was about slavery. And he cites the documents and everything, right? So if you only speak truth to power when it does not offend somebody, I have news for you. You are not speaking truth to power. When you double down on that, Ta-Nehisi Coates, and you ignore the enslavement of Africans that you've known about since you were in college at Howard University, and then want to talk about Israel as an apartheid state, now you're a moral coward, right? You've gone from the person who's not affirmatively speaking truth to power to being a coward. Not only are you not going to tell the truth about something like the slave trade of Africans throughout the Arab Islamic world, but now you want to talk about Israel, free Palestine, Israel is an apartheid state. No, Africans aren't enslaved in Israel. And I said this in the article, whether they're African Jews or non-Jews, but I mean, they are citizens of Israel, Christians, Jewish, some of them are Muslim. I'm talking about African now, most of Arab Muslim, but you have 100 different nations that are represented in Israel, ladies and gentlemen. It's Jewish and non-Jewish, right? It is a melting pot of places. It is the most diverse nation in the region and the most peaceful, right? Jews and Christians and Muslims and Baha'i and Mormons, and you have all kinds of different churches, and along with the synagogues and everything like that, it works. Is there difficulties there? Absolutely, there are difficulties that are there. But again, it is as what Dr. King said that it was in 1967 and 1968, an oasis of brotherhood and democracy. Brotherhood and democracy come together. Oasis surrounded by despotism and jihadism. That's what he meant. Right. I think often about that section of Frederick Douglass, because again, these people were ready to kill him because they were either slave owners or their mamas and their daddies and their cousins and their uncles and everything. And he up there, that Negro, the uppity Negro, they called him all. They said this Negro is trying to cause other problems. What was he doing? He was telling the truth about his people being enslaved. And it offended a bunch of people. So whenever Ipsy talks about the Arab Islamic enslavement of Africans, it offends people. And we could not care less. Say this again. Are we trying to be offensive? Are we trying to be provocative? No, we just don't care. Are we trying to ruffle people's feather? You're trying to stir up hatred for Arab? No, absolutely not. Hatred for Muslims? No. If, again, Frederick Douglass wasn't trying to stir up hatred for white people. Remember, some of his colleagues were white abolitionists. He was not trying to stir up hatred for people. He was not going the Nat Turner route and say, let's rise up and kill these white. He was saying, this is wrong and the laws need to be changed, which is why when the Civil War began, as it was clearly going in that direction, he was the first and immediate advocate of Black slaves, Black soldiers, whether they lived in free parts of the country or as slaves, being able to fight against the Confederacy for the abolition of slavery. That whole movie, Glory, Denzel Washington, 1984, I believe it was, on the fighting 63rd, am I saying it right? The Massachusetts Regiment. It was an all-Black regiment. And Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, amazing, one of my favorite movies. It's based on real life. These Black soldiers who broke the matrix, and other Black soldiers came in, and even though they lost that battle there in South Carolina, the inspiration that it caused across the South, across the country, thousands of Black men signed up to fight in the war to end slavery. When the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel brings out, and in that article, so people know, what can we do? In the article, please read the article. The article gives you two main other hyperlinks there that you can click on, both the African Jewish Alliance and iabolish.org, organizations that we are a part of that are actually actively not just bringing awareness of this, but working with government officials who are started by my good friend, shout out to Charles Jacobs, who's been in the anti-slavery movement for the last 30, 40 years, received a humanitarian award from Coretta Scott King, presented to him himself by Coretta Scott King, Dr. King's wife, back in 2002, 3, somewhere around in there, just a few years before she passed away. He's been on the front lines of this battle for a long time. And does he hate Muslims? No. He works with Muslims who actually will speak out against it. There are usually other African Muslims or other Muslims of other descent. And here's the thing. What we found is that it's very difficult to find Arab Muslims who are willing to actually talk about it publicly. We don't name and shame them. We don't. What all we're saying is that here's the reality on the ground. That's the point that we're making. The point of the video wasn't even to put Iman on Front Street. She put herself on Front Street, but we're not ridiculing her. Nothing in our narration was like, this woman, and she needs to get like. And we see some of the comments. So she should know better. She don't. She didn't know, right? You know what? Lots of people don't know. She didn't know. She never knew about the Arab slave. And that's the other thing. Last thing I'm gonna say on this thing, when we drew the parallels with Eldridge Cleaver, Eldridge Cleaver's arc, when it came to him first finding out about Arab enslavement and then doing a deeper dive in terms of Black Jewish relations and the Israel as a nation, he red pilled. He did a deeper dive on all these things. He was a brilliant man. He was twisted about a lot of stuff, right? But there's that kind of evil genius thing. That's why he got caught up in something. He was in jail for rape back when he was in his late teens, early 20s. I mean, this man had a messed up life that he kind of came through. So for him, this dude was about that. He's going to burn stuff down and destroy. His arc began to change, and it started when he saw Black slaves in Algeria, but it was 7 years. It took 7 years from when he first saw that flicker, and then the time he came back to the United States, turned himself into the authorities, and became just an out and proud Zionist. It was a deep dive he did for 7 years, traveling around the world, particularly in communist and Islamist nations. He went to communist and Islamic majority nations where he saw everything from the enslavement of Africans to the communism, what it actually did. He considered himself a communist in the United States. When he saw communism applied for real in Cuba and other places, he went, oh, well, maybe I'm not, right? So that took him 7 years. So for Iman, will she become a Zionist? That our point wasn't that. Hopefully she'll do a deeper dive, but our broader point everybody listen to this anti-Israel lady talk about the hypocrisy of the anti-Israel movement, who's completely down with enslaving other people. She even said at some point in the thing, she said, maybe that's why nobody's listening to us. Check it out. She said, maybe we're not getting the attention that we need because we're full of it. It's like, yep. Right? Yes. That's what the whole point of that was. So we got other stuff we need to get into, but we won't be able to get into all of it tonight. I do want to give a prelude, because over the next maybe couple of weeks, I will do this because this is something that's been in my spirit. 1 Samuel chapter 3, I will, so somebody was asking me, I'll end it here in a second, Miss Producer. We're posting things. I didn't get into these other very, very important things that are going on. There is a genocide of Jews and Christians and other religious minorities in Syria at the hands of al-Jawlani, who's the president, backed by our administration as well as Turkey and Qatar. We've been very, very vocal about that. And people will say, why you turned on Trump? I don't speak any less truth to power during the Trump administration than I did during the Obama administration. And yes, I have pointed out the inconsistencies between the first Trump administration and this one. And again, people got offended. I don't care. I don't care. Again, I try to offend you on the, oh my God, I'm not MAGA. I've never been. I voted for the president. Yeah, I did. I voted for him 3 times. Yep. When I saw the foreign policy agenda, and when I saw what was the domestic agenda, did I like everything? No. Did I like it way better than what was going on with Joe Biden and what was going on with Kamala Harris? You kidding me? Anyway, you're just a right winger. Some people got mad when I would critique Obama. Oh, no, you're right winger. And there's some people who come on a wall that I've critiqued Trump. I'm apologizing to you. I'm not paying attention to them. I'm not whatever. And the other ones, he's just a grifter. Nope. I try to speak to it. You know what? I try to be about it. Not just talk about it, be about it. So we backed it. Miss Producer, give that blood on your hands. For those, we wrote it back in the summer, but it's still relevant now. It's an article called "Blood on Our Hands." Big brig. Thank you, Pastor Dimitri. Shout out there. I'm just not looking at it, sir. The brig is there. I was trying to. Yeah, I thought about it. You saw me. I was struggling. I got the brig out there. Pastor Dimitri Koger out there. One of our pastors of the Congregation of Zion is actually also one of the leaders of our IPSI ambassadors. He's part of that team and everything. So shout out to you, sir. Yes, sir. So Miss Producer, just show that article. I mean, the thumbnail of that. What you can do, we wrote this article on Africa Israel Weekly back last summer. And I think, let me see if you, it's on this. It's called, I think it's on there. Oh, maybe you didn't load it up. Oh yeah. Blood on Our Hands. So what I would recommend, so I won't get it on tonight. Miss Producer, if you're there, she's let's see, fall asleep at the wheel. What I want you to do is check out Blood on Our Hands. You go to ibsi.substack.com. Back around July of 25, you will see an article called Blood on Our Hands. And the subtitle is How the Obama and Trump administrations Empowered the Genocides in Nigeria and Syria. It was written 6 months ago. It's still relevant now, especially with the ramping up of the killing of religious minorities in Syria. And in that article, you go to ibsi.org and go to find Africa Israel Weekly, or you can go to africaisraelweekly.com, right? Either one of those, and you can find that article. In that article, ladies and gentlemen, what we try to do is explain. I think I do it this way. We draw the parallels between what the Obama administration did to Nigeria, because it has a lot to do with the slaughtering of Christians in Nigeria right now. And yes, when we pointed out Obama supporters, oh, you guys, you shut out. I don't care. So then President Trump did some of the same things. Well, al-Jawlani, who was still, he's former Al-Qaeda. You hear the media saying stuff like that here, the White House. How are you former ISIS? How are you former Al-Qaeda? I mean, unless you done got saved and washed in the blood of the Lamb and baptized in fire, speaking into, unless something has happened to you where you had some sort of conversion, you are not former ISIS. You're not former Al-Qaeda. The man is still a bloodthirsty jihadist slaughtering minorities in Syria right now. President Trump along with Recep Erdogan and the Emir of Qatar and Saudi Arabia. They all sat there and they touched and agreed. This one of them church terms. I'm sorry, don't worry about it, everything. And that this was the man, Tom Barak, who is Trump's ambassador to Turkey. He called Al-Jilani Syria's George Washington. I am not joking with you. Google it. So we write in the article and we give information, links, detail, and at the end of that article, blood on our hands. Miss Producer, if you're there, show it to him again if you can. If not, it's all right. Grab hold. Oh, you might not be able to see. Oh, that's why you may not be able to see it. And again, you go to ibsi.org, ibsi.substack.com. Let me see if I can do it like this. Yep. See it there? Blood on our hands. And we explain what happened with Nigeria, and then we explain what happened with Syria. The Obama people got mad. When it was real time, that was 10 years ago. It starts with 2015. It started before then, but we focus on that timeline. And then 10, now going on 11 years later, and the Trump people, and the same arguments. Well, they didn't know. Oh, you're being too harsh. Or what about the good things? I can critique. That's why I started to do the whole First Samuel thing, and I'm not going to now. When we talk about First Samuel, I was meditating on it. Talked to one of my Torah scholar friends. We were discussing it and everything, and yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later on. It ain't going nowhere because we're gonna be here for a minute. So yes, check that article out. And I do want to emphasize again, when we are saying things that are somewhat offensive to other people, again, we're not trying to score points or get clicks, none of that kind of stuff, right? It's funny. When we say things that offend people, we lose as many followers as we gain on anything, right? I'm not following you anymore, and we don't know who the people are, right? Well, the engagement will go down. People would comment, you say these things and your engagement has gone down. It's like, okay, like that's supposed to. Yeah, I see you're saying these things about Trump and you just sound like you just hate Trump. It's not about hating. I pray for the president and everything, but I'm not going to stop speaking truth to power. We are enabling a bloodbath, a genocide in Syria. That's hence the article, blood on our hands. I even quote the scriptures in Revelation, how the blood of the martyrs cries out from beneath the throne and asking God, how long until you avenge us? God will avenge the blood of the martyrs. Right? Same thing about Nigeria. Right. And we're still funding the Taliban, and the Taliban, we mean the United States government, under the Doha deal. It started with Joe Biden. It's still continuing on now. The Republicans are on Capitol Hill gaslighting people. Oh, the Democrats are funding terrorism. Bruh, you all funding terrorism. Right. No, you're upset. Man. So there's not a whole. Yep. Don't let them gaslight. Remember the whole Somali thing? Oh, the Somali daycare thing. Yep, it's a shame. It's a shame. And that money's being funneled to Al-Shabaab. Yeah, right. Exactly. Republicans. And when y'all signed that big, beautiful bill last year, and folks was all in their shorts about that. Oh, I mean, Trump's kind of going, but what Elon Musk, and I don't know what Elon's problem is, right? Because he was there. He knows where all the bodies are buried. He was there. The big blow up between him and Trump was about the big beautiful bill. Elon Musk was completely against it because the people come in, oh, why are you advocating for Elon Musk? I said, dude, I don't even know him. I'm just telling you what happened. And folks say, so many get in your feels. It's about how I feel. I said, no, it's not about how you feel. So what's actually going on? And it's amazing. It's happening. It's happening in the church, outside of the church, different religions. I mean, folks, whoo. Anyway, that's another time. So because that part we have to deal with more spiritually and then go out from there. We got to deal with scripture and then go from there because they're, man. So yeah, I know I kept going on, but I'm going to have to stop. I'm not, if I go to First Samuel, then we'll be here for another couple hours. I'm not going to do that. So I want to thank you all for coming. Each Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, we are here, IPSI's Forum on Israel, Africa, and Black America. Hope this has been helpful to you. We'll have some other links here. Go to ibsi.org. Can you show them please, let's do the conference. I want you to know, please be praying with us, all those you do your prayer warrior thing. We are still gathering all of our sponsors for it, but we are moving forward. But I want you to see what we're planning to do in the next few weeks in Ethiopia. Go ahead, Miss Producer, if you can show that one last time, please. After a successful 3,000-year friendship celebrating the Africa-Israel relationship in Addis Ababa and the launch of our first African and Black American Holy Land tour, IBSI announced our first annual Young Leaders Conference of African and Black American men and women and asked you to help us make it happen. You responded, and we cannot thank you enough, but we still need your help. February 12th through the 14th, some 100 young delegates will gather in Ethiopia's capital from across Africa and the U.S. to discuss African Christian Zionism, Pan-Africanism and the diaspora, education, business, technology, music, and much more. Our speakers will be African, Israeli, and American thought leaders, and we'll be listening to what our young delegates have to say. Africa is the youngest and fastest growing continent, and the future of the region is Israel Africa. Young Black Americans will greatly impact that future, and your financial support will help us shape that future. To help us make the Young Leaders Conference in Addis Ababa a success, go to ibsi.org/donate and select Young Leaders Conference 2026. Or to support any area of IBSI's work, go to ibsi.org and select General. To learn more, visit ibsi.org and join our emailing list, or email us directly at info@ibsi-now.org. I'm going to make this announcement now, Ms. Producer, that next week we will not have it on Monday, but what we will do is on next our forum on Monday, it'll be Tuesday next week, 8 p.m. That's usually when our IPSI pastors are, but we're going to do the forum on that day, and it's going to be specifically in 1 Samuel chapter 3. So I'm making that announcement here. What I did not do today, God say the same. Tuesday, January the 20th, we will gather at 8 p.m. Eastern, and we will go into the Word of God, and we will talk about some of the parallels of what happened with Shiloh and Eli and his sons and young Samuel, and what's happening right now here, not just in the United States, but in the West. There's a changing of the guard that's actually happening here. So yes, so now, again, go to ibsi.org if you want to help us. We are a nonprofit organization, so all of your gifts are tax deductible. We are still gathering our sponsors and our supporters to help us make that conference a smashing success. There's a lot of excitement building it, ladies and gentlemen. The young people are going to be going different places from different parts of Africa, young men and women, as well as coming from the United States. Our IPSI ambassadors will be out there. Shout out there to all of our ambassadors. We're looking forward to it, but we need your help. You can donate to it. You can share with other people about it. Again, those links are there. Those videos are there. ibsi.org/donate. You can give online, or you can also you can scan that QR code as well, and you can also mail a check. We again, there's a PO box that's on there. If you click on that information, you go on ibsi.org/donate, ibsi.org/donate. You'll see that there. Again, shout out to everyone. We just appreciate you all. We've been getting gifts from different people, larger amounts, smaller amounts. People have been they've seen it and they said we want to be a part of it, and we are so blessed. They're Christians, they're Jewish, they're different walks of life and everything. And so we appreciate that. Africa and Israel is ladies and gentlemen, man, I'm gonna get off into it. Anyway, yeah, check out those videos, check out all that stuff. Thank you so much to everybody. Great being with you. See you next week on Tuesday. We'll make a special announcement next week on Tuesday, so we can go into the Word of God on 1 Samuel chapter 3, verses 1 through 3. Blessings, everybody. You all have a great week.